Kimi K2.5 dropped today, and within hours, people started saying that it can compete with Claude, GPT, and Gemini. But here's the thing, we've heard this before. A new model drops, benchmarks look incredible, and everybody kind of loses their mind. But then you start to actually use it and try to build a product, and things kind of fall apart. So for today, I'm taking a closer look and to what is Kimi K2.5 really good at, where does the hype fall apart, and how does it stack up against Qwen3 and MiniMax, two other open source models that keep being brought up even though they're built for completely different jobs. Let's get into it. Hey, welcome back. Today's video is all about Kimi K2.5, the new long context model from Moonshot AI. There's a lot of noise around this release. Some people are calling it a game changer. Others are already saying it's benchmaxed, meaning it looks amazing on paper, but doesn't survive real world dev work. I'm going to give you my honest breakdown. No hype, honestly, no hate. Just what does this model actually do, and should you care? And to really understand where Kimi fits, I'm comparing it to Qwen3 and MiniMax, two other major open models out of China. Now let's take a look at the numbers, because this is where it gets interesting. On agentic tasks, Kimi is dominating. Humanity's last exam has Kimi hitting 50.2. GPT 5.2 is at 45.5. Claude Opus 4.5 is at 43.2. BrowseComp has it at Kimi at 74.9, GPT at 65.8, Claude 57.8. With Deep Search QA, Kimi leads with 77.1. So for agent reasoning, which is deep search, complex multi-step tasks, Kimi is legitimately ahead on paper. But here's what most people miss. On coding benchmarks, Kimi is actually behind. Software engineering benchmarks that are verified have Claude leading at 80.9, GPT at 80, and Kimi, well, at 76.8. That's not to say that that's very close to GPT and Claude. So if you're picking Kimi expecting it to outcode Claude, yeah, that's not really going to happen. The data just doesn't support that. Kimi isn't trying to win everything. It's optimized for reasoning across massive contexts. And that's exactly what the benchmarks reflect. Now, one thing that caught me off guard when I first tried Kimi wasn't even the model, it was the interface. If you've ever used ChatGPT, the Kimi UI just feels instantly familiar. The layout, the sidebar, the conventional, the conversation flow, it's clearly inspired by the same design patterns. And it's really just a copy of ChatGPT. So they did it very, very, very well in regards to emulating that. And honestly, that to me matters. You're not fighting a new interface while also trying to evaluate a new model. It just works. Everybody's going to know what to do. It signals something important. These companies aren't just competing on raw capability anymore. They're competing on experience, just like traditional software development. No one wants to relearn what they already know. So the UI has to look familiar. And in this case, it looks just like ChatGPT. So how does Kimi compare to Claude, GPT, and Gemini? Here's my honest answer. The advantage isn't that Kimi beats them on every single task. Everybody's obsessed with these benchmarks and they're like, this is the model that will beat any other model. To me, sometimes the advantage is more of control. Remember, Kimi is an open source model. And so you can self-host Kimi, integrate it into your own pipelines, avoid subscription ceilings and having to pay for tokens. Everybody knows it gets a little frustrating when you hit your max amount of tokens on a Cloud Code subscription. So access through it can be cheaper through different inference providers, and the list goes on and on. you control more of what you can do with this model. Claude, GPT, Gemini, they're incredibly capable and everybody's on them. I wouldn't trade my Claude Code CLI tool for anything anymore, but they're packaged at a premium price because they're premium products. So you pay the subscription, you play by their rules, and Kimi's offering something a bit different that everybody should be thinking about, an alternative, something with serious capability and a little more flexibility, actually a ton of flexibility, at least for certain workflows. A subject that I've been thinking about is having all of my work development being done on Claude Code. That is my go-to, and potentially having a secondary model do some of the more simple tasks at hand that won't eat up my tokens. I'll cover that in another video. Kimi is not lightweight. Long context has a cost, so its specialty requires a lot of hardware. If you want to run models with massive context windows like Kimi, you're paying for VRAM, RAM in general, and just computing GPU power. So on a consumer hardware, you're looking at quantized versions, smaller variants, or strict context limits, which brings you pretty much to the original problem. This is why I don't really think of Kimi as an everyday chat model. It's a specialized tool, a deep analysis brain you bring in when the task demands it. So when all fails and you need the heavy guns to keep track of long context, this is where Kimi's comes in. For daily work though, you need something leaner, which brings us to Qwen3. Now, Qwen3, that's Alibaba's open model family. It has a completely different opposite philosophy from where Kimi comes from, and Kimi pushes extreme context as its feature headline. Qwen3, though, focuses on balance. So you can expect strong coding ability, fast inference, good reasoning, and excellent local dev friendliness. This is a model that you can realistically run every day for coding assistance, tool calling, structured JSON output, agent loops, and API automation. It runs well quantized and it has a great ecosystem support. So it's very, very practical. If Kimi's like your big analysis brain, Qwen3 is your workhorse. Then there's MiniMax, a Chinese AI lab that's been quietly building strong conversational models. MiniMax isn't chasing the same goal as Kimi or Qwen. Where it shines, it's more with the conversational polish. So responses feel smooth, human, clear, and more assistant-like. If you're building user-facing chat experiences, customer support bots, conversational products, anything where tone and flow matters, such as this YouTube video, MiniMax delivers. But for deep agent tooling or heavy dev work, it's not your first choice. So here's the mental model. Kimi is a long context analysis. Qwen3 is your builder and agent workhorse. And then MiniMax can be your chat, user interface, and conversational assistant. Different tools, different jobs, different open source models. And this is where I think the industry is heading and how people should start thinking. Instead of thinking that one model can outpace any other model and it's the one and only, people should start thinking of architecture in regards to building systems that depend on different AI agents with different AI open source models. Well, they don't even have to be open source, but you get the point. Now let's talk about what real developers think, because the Reddit threads on this release are brutally honest. The top comment sets the tone. I love Chinese models because of their price, but we have to be honest, most of them are benchmaxed. That seems to always be the case. Another user put it perfectly. DeepSeek checked all the boxes and looked like a Ferrari on the surface, but drove like a stolen Hyundai. And if you don't know DeepSeek, it was another hyped Chinese model that made waves earlier last year. That's the vibe, skepticism, not dismissal really, but there's someone asking questions that we're all thinking of. So are they tuned to the beat? Are they tuned to beat these tests? As one user put it, like a Volkswagen tweaking cars to pass emissions. I've owned a Volkswagen and I've had my issues, so we all know that type of engineering. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but the concern is valid, right? A model can be optimized for benchmarks without being optimized for real work. There's also this smart take. We're judging open source models like an engine, but the other guys are selling a full car. And that's true. Claude, GPT, Gemini, they're not just models, they're polished and finished products. Tool integration, browsing, file handling, guardrails, and the full-on experience. And this is why Claude was able to sell Cowork so well. We knew that was possible, and as developers, we can quickly create our own agent to have access to our file management system, but they delivered the final product where the everyday Joe can log into Cowork and actually restructure their file system and search and have it read for specific files and PDFs, right? And so that's where this take is pretty accurate. One user actually tested Kimi for web research, and he said it was incapable of creating real links. Everything was hallucinated. No matter how many times I pointed it out, it couldn't fix it. We've all have experienced this before with earlier versions of ChatGPT. So sometimes the problem isn't the model, it's missing scaffolding around it. It doesn't feel like a product. It doesn't feel like Claude Code or ChatGPT. And I think that's why I don't let go of my Claude Code subscription. But not everybody was negative. One user said, Kimi K2.5 is incredible for novel tasks, orchestrating 500 agents at once, turning videos into working UI prototypes. It beats Opus at creative writing. So the consensus, more competition is good. API costs might come down, but nobody's canceling their Claude Code Pro subscription just yet, including me. And so my takeaway is don't let benchmark charts convince you a model is on par with your current workflow. You have to test it yourself. All right, so here's the practical part. If I were setting up a workflow using all three models, here's how I would do it. Qwen3 as the primary brain. It's fast, it's cheap, and it handles coding, tool, structured output, and daily tasks. Kimi has the deep analysis mode, massive documents, repo-wide reasoning, tasks where the model needs to understand everything before it can do anything. And then MiniMax as the conversational layer. This is more for end users. User-facing assistants need to be polished, and they need to have the right tone and the right experience for customer service. So this is how you win. You don't subscribe to one brain. You compose multiple models like tools. Cheap models handle the volume, specialized models handle the edge cases, and premium models step in for the hardest problems. That's my playbook, and I'm trying to stick to that. But believe it or not, I still have issues, and I'm still figuring it out. Everybody is. And that's just the name of the game right now. So Claude Code is my go-to, but I'm starting to use these open source models a little bit more in this fashion and in this type of playbook. Now let's zoom out because there's a larger story here. A year ago, open source models were interesting experiments, curiosities, research projects you played with on the side. Today, they're more of becoming production tools. The gap between open and closed is shrinking fast. Every few months, a new open model matches or beats the previous generation of closed models, and the rat race continues. I completely love this. Kimi, Qwen, DeepSeek, Llama from Meta, they're not just catching up, they're actually pushing the frontier. So here's the question everybody needs to ask. Can you realistically rely on open source instead of paying for a subscription? Honestly, it just kind of depends. For everyday work, like I said, coding help, text generation, simple agent loops, yeah, you can. Open models are absolutely good enough and they're dramatically cheaper, but then I have to be real with you. Claude Opus 4.5 is still the best coding model I've used, and I won't let go of it. When I need something complex done right the first time, I immediately launch Claude Code. When I need deep reasoning without hand-holding, still Claude. And that's okay. The point isn't that open source has won. The point is that it's now a legitimate option. It's not a hobby anymore. It's not a compromise. It's a real tool, and these models are being released every day. So get yourself familiar with these tools because they can help you. Why should I even care about open source models? Some people say. Well, there's 3 reasons. Number 1, like I said, is cost. You control what you spend. I spend $200 a month in subscriptions. I pay for the tokens. That's a lot of money for me, just personally. But the other reason is control. You own the development. You can fine tune the models. You can run it air gapped. No dependency on someone else's uptime or policy changes. And speed. The open source community moves incredibly fast. Models that were state of the art 6 months ago are baselines now. But we're also seeing that, to be fair, on the closed models. So no, I'm not telling you cancel your Claude Code because I wouldn't. I'm just kind of saying, hey, expand your toolkit. Kimi K2.5 was released today. Start using it, experiment with it, and see how it can help you with simpler tasks. Actually, if I listen to my own video, see how it can help me with large data sets, right? Because its specialty is long context. The best developers I know don't pick like one model and stay loyal. They're like me. No, I'm just kidding. They pick the right model for the job. And that reminds me of how software development used to be. We picked the right tech stack for the right job. People often argued, oh, this language is better than another language. But there wasn't a right or wrong answer. There was just different tools for different jobs. And you have to start thinking of models in the same fashion. So right now, open source gives you more options than ever. Think of it as a new programming language. So here's where we land. Kimi K2.5 is genuinely exciting for long context reasoning, but the hardware demands and real world limitations are real. Qwen3 is the practical daily driver for building apps or like developers, right? The tic-tac-toes of everyday or little concepts that you're going to build for games, Qwen3 can definitely help out. And remember, MiniMax is also great. This is to play for like a polished user-facing chat experience. And the biggest lesson here is benchmarks are not real life. We can look at the paper and they're going to score 80.5 and they beat it by 3 points. What does that really mean to us, right? The best model is the one that performs an actual workflow. But here's the thing. I don't just want to talk about these models. I want to prove it. So in my next video, I'm putting them to the test. Same task, same constraints, real code, real results. No more charts, no more speculation. I just want to have an experience for myself. And I'll share it with you guys. Maybe it'll be accurate, maybe it won't. But can these models actually build something is what I'm after. I'm going to vibe code with Kimi, Qwen, and a few others. And you'll see exactly where they deliver, where they struggle, and where they completely fall apart. If you want to see which model actually ships when it matters, subscribe, hit the bell because the video is dropping soon. And drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I know I spoke only about like Qwen and MiniMax, but what models are you guys using? I don't know everything and I haven't covered everything. The space is moving way too fast. So let me know what models I should test first. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.